Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Mine, the Missouri S&T Athletics Podcast. Luke Kotcher. Alongside me is head women's volleyball coach Jacquie Cason. And Coach, how are we doing today?
Not too bad. It's a nice sunny day outside, so can't do much better with the weather.
Yeah, definitely. You're coming off your first season as a head coach here at Missouri S&T. You were hired back, I believe, in April, right, of last year, something around that day.
Yeah, mid-March kind of time frame.
So you really just hit your 1 year mark here at S&T, right?
Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So you're coming off a 9-18 record, 5-8 in the GLVC. You guys were just one win away from making the GLVC tournament last season. I'm assuming that was your guys' goal going into the season. Just talk to me about that and how, maybe the disappointment that you guys felt after the season.
Yeah, definitely the goal was to make the conference tournament, so it's definitely kind of a learning curve through it of making sure we finish strong as we go through. 1 game away, we were in the conference tournament the whole time, and McKendree did their job that last weekend and got in.
Yeah, definitely. We can talk about your non-conference slate. It's your first season as a head coach here with S&T, so maybe not the schedule that maybe you set, but you guys had a tough non-conference slate to start the year, right?
Yes, it was definitely tough. I wanted to kind of really have it, I would say, easier weekend on the first weekend to see kind of where we were at, and then the last 2 where the goal was to get us ready for a conference, because we do come from a tough conference, so I want to be able to compete in there and see where we're going, as opposed to just go right into conference. You're like, oh, they're good.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, let's get up to speed there.
And you as a coach really found that out last year. I'm assuming you knew about the GLVC when you were in the MIAA at Northwest Missouri State, but you actually got to experience the entire schedule last year.
Yes.
So
for sure, I experienced it. There's definitely, each team has their different strengths, and it's different than pretty much any conference, and that's going to be throughout the world, like throughout the whole nation. They're going to be different strengths. So finding the GLVC strengths and how to now manage that on my side. Yeah,
definitely. So you guys started the year 2-2. At Ouachita Baptist, you defeated Montevallo, Southeastern Oklahoma. Kind of tell me what you saw from your squad in that weekend when you guys went 2-2.
Yeah, lots of energy. We were digging a lot of balls. We had a strong middle presence when it came to the blocking on the offense. Our outsides were taking care of business as well.
Yeah, and then after that, you guys started the season 2-10. Kind of talk to me about that and how you talk to your team under a first-time head coach. You guys started the season 2-10. How do you kind of keep that motivation going and just keep it going into the conference schedule?
We just go back to practice of like, okay, let's work on the small things one at a time. Yes, our ultimate goal is to win games, but in order to do that, we have to do it in practice. So focus on what we struggled with that weekend, get it into practice, and then feel confident through that as we grew. And I think each week the results weren't coming out as we wanted to, but we were getting better each week. And we were working on things we needed to work on. People were getting more confident. They were getting comfortable with the whole team. Because also the big thing is I was new, but I had also had 8 new players that hadn't played with each other. So I had 8 returners and 8 new people. So that first couple of weeks was trying to find that bridge for everybody.
Yeah, and maybe that confidence came out in that October 4th and 5th weekend where you guys beat Drury and Southwest Baptist 3-2, 3-1 respectively. Kind of talk to me about that weekend and how you guys were feeling during that weekend.
Yeah, that weekend was a tough weekend in essence because both of those teams are tough. They come in very scrappy. I think we just went into that weekend as like, we want some wins. We want to win these games. There's a different fight going on. There was a different sense of urgency. There was a different motivation going on. So that was definitely a good propeller towards the end of the season.
And that was your home opener, too. It was a month long that you guys were away from Missouri S&T, but you come back, your home opener, you defeat Drury 3-2 in that 5-setter.
Yes, that was it. That was definitely a nail biter. And I'm like, okay, guys, let's 5-setter. Let's get after it.
Yeah. And then you guys went to the Midwest region crossover as well. You go 2-1 in that weekend. Kind of talk to me about seeing just different competition around the Midwest.
Yeah. No, that tournament is so nice to have. We are one of 2 regions in the nation that does that, a full crossover. Yeah. So it was good to see other conferences and play against them. And then it was also that camaraderie going on because that's the one weekend we get to cheer for our other GLVC teams.
Yeah, right.
So like the end of match, like the number 1 game was Quincy versus Ferris. Mm-hmm. And it was the GLIAC schools versus the GLVC schools cheering each other on. So that was really nice to kind of see. We were matching the cheers. But competition-wise was really good. And it was we definitely turned a corner in that bit with different people playing in different positions. working together more as a team, fighting through that adversity.
Yeah, and talk about turning a corner. That next weekend you guys came back home. McKendree and number 14, Missouri St. Louis, you guys take down 3-2, the final scores in those. I mean, you guys were feeling after that weekend, then you come back home and just take it to those teams, right?
Yes, that Midwest was a big changer for us. So going in and having McKendree and UMSL, which are two good teams.
Yeah.
And at the time, UMSL was ranked.
Yeah.
So taking off a ranked team in my first year and with that new staff, new grouping was really, really important.
Yeah, that was a 5-setter, number 14, Missouri St. Louis. You guys took them down. They might have the best setter in the nation, right? She's just insane, Caitlin Bishop. But talk to me, you guys, you win the first set 25-23. Then you lose the second set 25-14. What's kind of the feeling after that one?
Yeah, it was weird because people talked to me afterwards, and I was like, we lost that badly, but I never felt it.
Yeah.
It was almost like the first set was a battle back and forth, and the second set was where UMSL really started to play more.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, UMSL came to play. So then going into third, fourth, fifth, it was more of a balance going into it. So
yeah,
I didn't feel anything. Everybody's like, why didn't you make any changes? You were losing a lot. I'm like, I didn't get the feeling we were losing that set.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we did, and we lost by a healthy margin, but it was still really good gameplay. And we were just not ending those rallies.
Yeah, definitely. And then, that fifth set, 15-11, you guys just started out the set so well and just carried it all the way to the end, right?
Totally. It was 100%. We had the control of the fifth set the whole time. I think we were up 14-8 probably. And then they started coming back. So I was like, okay, guys, there's no more wiggle room left.
Yeah.
Like, no more.
Mm-hmm.
You can't let them keep coming back.
Yeah, definitely. And then after that weekend, you guys had a tough slate at the end of the year. You guys go to Lewis and UIndy, and then host Maryville and Truman at the end of the year. Kind of walk me through those last couple series and just how tough the rest of the road was for you.
Yeah, we had some rough road trips because you got Lewis, Indy, we had Rockhurst on the road, we had Quincy on the road,
Yeah.
so our road matches were definitely tough. So coming into it, it was just trying to keep those spirits up, fighting our hardest in that regard. We were also fighting a couple injuries, just like those nagging injuries that you have towards the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of got the better of us towards the end.
Yeah, and then you win senior day at the end of the year against Upper Iowa 3-0. You guys almost snuck into the tournament there. If you beat Truman State, you might have snuck in. But kind of walk me through that last weekend and how you and the girls were feeling.
Yeah, last weekend it was our home weekend, which was nice. We had a good amount of her seniors that were playing, so kind of sending them off on a good note. Really trying to do different things. Like Truman did some different lineups that were trying to give us an extra couple points and get a set from it. If we won Truman, we would have been in the conference tournament because it was a 4-way head-to-head with us, McKendree, SBU, Drury.
Okay. And
with that head-to-head, if we were the same at the end of that weekend, we beat all of them head-to-head, so we were in. So unfortunately for us, McKendree won both games, and we won only one of them, so McKendree got in. But then going into Upper Iowa, it was just very much of like, how can we end on a good note? How can we really get after it? And I felt like that game, we really started to click and put things together. And a 3-0 against Upper Iowa was pretty good. They had a really good middle. Yeah,
and is that game sort of something you can kind of build upon in the offseason going into next year at all?
A little bit. I think the more the build-up is, like, at the end of the year meetings, a lot of our players were saying, I don't want that kind of season again.
Yeah.
I want to win more games. So that motivation has been there this whole spring. It was how much can we work and how much can we fight so that we earn more of those. And we, almost reversed the record.
Yeah.
If we can go 18-9, that's a really good year.
Yeah, and talk to me about that pressure coming in. First-time head coach, the team is just coming off an NCAA tournament appearance. Talk to me about that and the pressure you kind of felt as a head coach.
I felt a little bit of it just because of the expectation through it. It was a little bit different because of the seniors of the 23 season leaving were big impact players. So I wanted to make sure I took this season on as, okay, yes, it's different. Yes, we are a team now that can be seen in the national field. Mm-hmm. But how can we now make it longevity through it?
Right.
How can we build through that longevity? And going into it. It's just, coming into this next 25 season that's the goal.
Yeah, definitely. We could talk about some individual standouts. I think we have to start with Alina Carrillo in the season.
Yep.
She had the All-GLVC second team honoree. She was 9th in the conference in kills, 8th in points. Kind of talk to me about, what she did for your team this season.
Alina did a lot. And the combo with Alina and Belle was probably one of my best outside combos I've ever had. Because both of them were my best passers. They were the best defenders. They were getting the most amount of kills, and that's a lot to ask from any one person, and I had 2 people doing that.
Right.
So Alina stepped up big time. Their teams had to overly scout her because she was getting the majority of the balls, but she was always finding a way to get those kills.
Right.
So she made kills up, which is a big part of what a good outside does.
Yeah, she averaged 3.62 kills a set and 1,100 total attempts that she had last season.
Yep. Sounds about right. So a lot of attempts, but if you're getting 3.6 kills a set, you just keep feeding the beast.
Yeah, right. And we go on the defensive side as well. You mentioned Isabel Monaco. She had 3.59 digs a set. That was one of the tops in the conference. Not even as a libero is now outside, too, getting those numbers is a big deal.
I know. There was a time where Belle wanted to be a libero. I'm like, I need you to hit.
Yeah.
I was like, but I could pass. I'm like, I'm not saying you can't pass, and I'm not saying you can't play defense, but I need you to also hit out of that. So, no, she was big defensively, and that was her role. Majority of her career was playing back row and getting the serve receive and the digs. So then this year, she really stepped up on the front row.
And we can talk about your 2 setters, Annie Arend, Elise Mahaffey. Both had around 430, 440 sets or assists this year, I should say. Kind of talk to me about them and their role and what you're going to see from them next year.
Yeah, no, they play a big role in that leadership piece. Like Annie's been in that role for a good amount of time, and Elise has kind of come in as she gets older, getting more confident and showing that leadership a little bit more. So going into this year, having 2 senior setters with playing experience is a godsend, just being able to have that experience and okay, especially when I have 6 brand new hitters coming in, that they need that to be able to rely on the setters and have the experience, have somebody that they can count on, give them the ball in their correct spot. So I think for them, they're going to be big game changers for us on the offensive end, but also the huge leadership piece.
Right. Definitely. Kind of talk to me about those new players you have coming in. You have 6 new players coming in the 25 class. Kind of tell me what you're excited about with that group.
Yeah. Well, it's 7. I have a setter too.
And a setter. So you have 7.
Yes. I've been talking about 6 hitters, but I also have a setter coming in.
7.
So we have 2 right sides, 2 middles, and 2 outsides, and then a setter. So one of the outsides, Celine, is coming in from Lynn. So they were national champions in D2 this year. So she's coming in as an outside with experience and good experience of playing on a team that has gone all the way.
Right.
Ellie, the other outside coming in, is coming from the Chicago area, Joliet area. So she's been on a high school team and club team where she's taken on a big role in the offensive and defensive end.
Okay.
So that's been really helpful for her in that transition from high school to college. If you're that person that people are like, okay, give it to Ellie and she's going to get a kill, that makes that transition so much easier to college. Middles, we have Avery and Kate. So Avery's coming in from Kansas City, very similar to Ellie, like her high school team. She gets set a lot of balls. Is normally to have 11 to 12 kills per set as a middle.
Yeah.
And then Kate's coming off a state championship in high school. So she's been a big role player in her high school in that regard. And she's only going to get better. Like every time I see her and every time I watch her play, she's getting more comfortable and going after it. And she goes on that 1 foot, man. She just rises to that ball. I'm like, she's going to destroy this. So middles, right sides, I have Danny and Addie coming in. So I'll have 2 Addies on the team.
Yeah.
So we've established that we have Addie, our libero right now.
Yeah.
And then we have Addie May is the right side.
Right. Okay.
So then there's some kind of difference going on.
Yeah.
So Addie's coming in from Milwaukee. She's coming in as a state runner-up in the highest division in Wisconsin.
Okay.
She was an all-tournament team player. She was an all-conference player. And then her team qualified for nationals and 18s for club. So she is this light and the spark for everybody.
Right.
Like that kid never is not smiling.
Mm-hmm.
Always smiling. If something weird happens, she's kind of just like, okay, cool, next ball.
Right.
But she's also the ultimate competitor because she just wants to win so badly. So you talk to her after a match when we lose, she's not very happy. Which
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we get that kind of thing. We
Right.
get going on that. And then we have Danny coming from Colorado. Lefty, 6'3" lefty, which is almost unheard of at D2.
Yeah, right.
So size alone. And then she does a really good job lining up, finding the block, getting kills. Being a lefty, you throw off people in that regard. And she's going to keep getting better and getting after it. And then our last one is Caitlin Brady, and she goes by Brady.
Okay.
There's no Caitlin in there.
Yeah.
So she's coming from Rogers, Arkansas as a setter. Had some problems with some injuries back and forth. So being able to come in and be healthy in that regard. She's going to learn from 2 solid setters her first year.
Yeah.
And be able to kind of grow in that.
Yeah, definitely. We can talk about your schedule a little bit next year. We just released that a couple weeks ago. But you guys are hosting a tournament next year, which will be awesome. You guys will have a bunch of opponents here over one weekend. Then you guys go away. And then the conference schedule is the same as last year, just flips around. And talk to me about your schedule and how you feel about it coming in this season.
I feel pretty good about our hosting weekend. So we get 4 solid games in with opponents that are going to challenge us. So we're starting off Thursday this year instead of Friday. So Thursday night at 6. And it's against Minnesota Mankato, which is a team that's in, I would say, arguably the toughest conference in the nation, the Northern Sun, where they did a very good job in playing that. And like I said, it's the toughest conference. They only have 8 teams go to the conference tournament. 90% of the time, all 8 of those are in the top 25 in the nation.
Yeah.
So that will be a good battle for us. And then we got 2 on Friday and 2 on Saturday. And then we go to Parkside, which we're going to play some big opponents in that regard. So we get Winona State again, like we did. We played them this past year, so we get them a second time to see kind of how that difference in the year will make.
Yeah, right.
And then we'll go to UCM and play UCM, which is historically a good program.
Yeah, you know about that.
Oh, yes. Historically good program. They are tough to beat. They're always a tough team. And then Washburn, who we played last year as well.
Yeah.
So it's, like I said, just like Winona State, that would be good to see kind of how our team looks at after a year against Washburn.
Yeah, and then the GLVC schedule, you guys will get some of the tougher opponents at home this year. You'll get, you said the tough road trips earlier. They'll come to our place this year. Kind of talk to me about that and what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about the tough schedule coming in. So we have a very young team, so it's going to be good to see how they fight through the preseason and see what our conference looks like. So the schedule's pretty good. We don't have a whole lot of big road trips. Last year we had a lot of long road trips back to back because we had the Midwest crossover, and then the next weekend we went to Lewis and Indy.
Yeah, right.
And that's just a tough where you leave on Thursday morning and then Thursday morning again. So we get Lewis and Indy at home this time, which is going to make it a lot easier. But home games should be rocking. We'll have the bigger components that way. UMSL's still going to be UMSL.
Yeah.
We'll get Rockhurst at home, so Rockhurst at home will be good. Lewis and Indy at home will be good. So it'll be some fun volleyball playing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Coach, thanks for joining us today. Do you have any closing thoughts here on the next episode of Inside the Mine?
No, just excited to be a Miner. Let's go Miners.
Yeah, let's go Miners. Alrighty, that is episode 3 of Inside the Mine. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.